question is, have you ever experienced rudeness at work?
Yes.
Got a bit of laugh in there. Okay, let's see. Put up your hands if you have experienced rudeness at work. Okay. Okay, brilliant. Put up your hand if you've ever been rude at work. Okay, there's not as many. Maybe a few fibbers. Uncivil behaviour. Huh. I can tell you about uncivil behaviour. I could write the bloody book. Oh, here she comes.
Sorry, I'm really late. Sorry, the bus was late. The weather's a bit better today, isn't it?
Everybody
sorry,
prepare for the hairdryer.
Sorry. Oh, lovely face. Got to get me from.
Face like thunder today.
No. You're all right, aren't you? You look happy. Did you get the butty?
Looks like she's had vinegar on her cornflakes this morning.
I'll be here in a minute. Don't worry.
Prepare for the Eye of Sauron.
What? Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just about holding it together. Look, I've got to go. I'm at work. You know, it's not about the goodies and the baddies. It's not as simple as that.
What is uncivil behavior?
For me, it's just the little things.
Yeah. It's kind of not feeling totally comfortable.
Like a change in atmosphere,
Cliques,
snide remarks,
favouritism,
subtle undermining,
they're not being invited to social gatherings.
just makes me feel a bit insecure.
It kind of changes the vibe a bit.
I mean, is it me?
Is it me?
And sometimes it's just like subtle things, like a change in behaviour, like the cold shoulder, silence and grumpy behaviour.
Death by 1,000 cuts. Death by 1,000 cuts.
Alright there, Ethel. Don't worry, we'll have a cup of tea soon and then Ethel's cake if you're lucky.
Alright, everyone, glad to see such a big crowd in the day room today. You doing alright, yeah? Everybody okay? You're very muted. You don't normally like this. Right, I'm going to check in with the events coordinator, but I think today it's sing-along
The way
day.
things are set up, it exposes people to accepting stuff that may not be acceptable, and then it becomes part of the culture. So basically, you walk into it, you feel like everything is weird and foreign, but there is a common language. There's a common understanding. There are common rules. And then you spend your time either agreeing with those rules or you have a conflict on your hands because it doesn't sound fair. But you do it anyway because you want to belong to that group. Before you know it, you practice that incivility on a regular basis, whether it's practiced on you or not. What you permit, you promote.
You alright to finish these? Alright everyone, so yes, as I said, it's sing-along day, yeah? Get the pipes warmed up. Okay everybody, so we're going to start with, well, what do you want to, any suggestions? What about that one Celine Dion from Titanic, huh? Do we know it? So who wants to start? Amy? Are you sure? Anybody, who wants to give it a go first? Huh? What about you? Do you want to give us a go? No? You don't know that one? Well, how about let's warm ourselves up. When I do this, I want you to give me an ah. 1, 2, 3.
Ah.
Good, okay, it goes in ah. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll let our voices warm up a bit before we tackle Celine Dion. Is that alright? Okay, we're going to need a cup of tea if we're going to get our voices warmed up. Do you want a cup of tea? Can we get a cup of tea down here? What's your name again?
My name is Daphne.
Great, yes, okay. Cup of tea down here. You'll be wanting a wee blanket. What are you called? Margaret. Yeah. Margaret wants a blanket here, Deirdre. Okay, so we need a blanket.
Daphne.
Very good, that's great. Where's she from? From somewhere foreign. She's not from Bolton anyway, that's for sure. You alright there, love? Deirdre? The folding going okay?
Yes.
Yeah? You're doing great, thank you. You're looking a wee bit tired there. Do you want to go back to your room? We're going to need Mrs. Taylor taken back to her room here, Deirdre, yeah?
I don't know where the room is.
Oh, come on. Am I supposed to be telling you everything? You've got to stand on your feet at some point. I don't know. Well, listen, be a good thing to come in a little bit earlier every now and then. Get yourself acquainted with the place, wouldn't it? Why don't you come in tomorrow a little bit earlier? I tell you, whenever I started here, I didn't know what was going on, that's for sure. Why don't you do that? Why don't you come a little bit earlier? Here you are. I tell you what, let me give you a wee bit of advice. If I was you, I'd just keep my head down. I tell you, the one thing I'd really tell you, I wouldn't take things personally if I was you. Don't take it personally.
I remember one day being in the canteen on my own, and suddenly I heard a door slam shut. You know, over time, I felt like I was always a confident leader until she made me feel like I wanted to recoil. She made me feel so unconfident. Even when I was going into meetings, when she was around, I just felt like I had to have a coat of armour on all the time. She was definitely the ringleader. And she just knew, she just knew how to drop grenades into meetings. She didn't always instigate the behaviour, but she suddenly made me feel embarrassed about my leadership skills. And I began to feel so anxious. There was a time that I just let it go on until my maternity came up and it was a chance to escape. You know, there were times when I thought, I can talk to her, I can win her round, but it never happened. I tried. I think it's only when you step away from it, you realise how difficult it was. And so now I say to all colleagues, we need to call it out. Because this behaviour is unacceptable. It's not okay. And if you experience it or witness it, you need to say something. And if leadership and management, they're not listening, you need to tell somebody. Because honestly, the effects, not only at work, but out of work, they can be profound. Death by 1,000 cuts.
actually think people know the impact that they're having. I really don't. I think if people could see the effect their words were having, if they could understand the impact that their actions or their lack of actions were having, I actually think people would really be horrified. I don't know, if you could just see the impact that it has on someone, see them when they leave work, see them on the bus, see how depleted they feel, see them in the evening when they're with their family and they're just not able to muster that energy, I think people would be absolutely horrified. I think it's because we're not connected. I don't know, it's like we don't have the relationships sometimes at work. And I'm not saying that everybody has to be buddy-buddy in work, but I think just sometimes those connections can really make a difference. Because if people did see the impact that their words or their actions were having, I genuinely think most people would be horrified. We get into this job because we care and because we're compassionate. I mean, I sometimes think, why can't we keep that same level of compassion we have for our patients? Why don't we have that with each other? If it's good enough for the patients, it should be good enough for us. It's like death by 1,000 cuts.
Hi everybody, my name's Beth. I'm a little bit nervous today, but I have prepared a question. I've thought about it quite a bit, and I'd like to bring it forward to the conference.
No, Beth. I don't think this is the right space for your question, so we'll pick it up later. Let's move on.
Sorry, I don't think that's an appropriate way to speak to a staff member, actually. So does anyone else agree?
Yes.
Witnessing uncivil behaviour is horrible. A few years ago at a big staff meeting, I submitted a question. The boss disagreed, spoke down to me in front of everyone. It was awful. But then another guy stood up and said, I don't think it's appropriate for you to talk to a member of staff like that. Called the boss out. And once he said that, everyone else was like, well, yeah, you're right. And during the break, the boss apologised. He even phoned the guy that evening, thanking him for challenging him. Says he didn't realise how much his behaviour impacted everyone. We spoke about that for months. I remember the way he handled it, and the way he felt brave enough to challenge on someone else's behalf, which he completely didn't have to do. That meant a lot to me.
Bloody cyclists.
I don't think it's too dramatic to say incivility is the silent killer.
You see, if I have a bad interaction with someone, I'm going to take it home with me.
Yeah, I think every day we come into work, it's just those little cuts bit by bit that can have a big impact.
Yeah, if I'm driving on the M60 and I'm thinking about that bad interaction, well, my mental capacity is low. And, you know, if I crash the car, then no one would know why. They test me for alcohol, they test me for drugs, but they wouldn't test me for toxic culture at work.
I think we spend too much of our time at work to be unhappy there. I think it's like, how do we break that cycle of conflict?
Yeah, I mean, No one's going to be going to the deathbed in 50 years thinking,
Oh, I'm really glad I kept that beef up for 25 years with Marjorie and accounts result. Ugh.
I mean, sometimes we've just got to break free. I know it's hard.
We've got to do what we can do to try and make things a little bit better.
We need to have more conversations.
I think we're all busy, but we need to make some time.
We need to think about it.
How can we make this better?
Because we need to make it better.
We can make it better.
We will make it better.
So we're now going to hear from three colleagues who have been instrumental in bringing this work to life. So Amy, Alison, Josh, please sit on the sofa. So yeah, they're going to talk each about why they were keen to be involved and how they're going to build these resources into new or existing opportunities within their organisations to give us all a bit of flavour. So Alison, she's the locality manager for Skills for Care, and she's going to share why she wanted to be involved and how she sees these resources being used across social care.
So I guess it's more of a privilege really to be here. It was a real privilege to be invited to be part of the working group, and interestingly, in light of what's been said today, even though I guess I was kind of not the outsider, but the non-NHS person, within that group, it felt like a really safe space to challenge things. We challenged the words we use, the words that are different between health and social care, which is, I find really interesting because I think the kind of words we use and the acronyms we use across different parts of the sector can actually exclude people, can make people feel like they're not included, like they're not part of the conversation.
Next, it's going to be Josh, who is 100% passionate about staff experience, health and wellbeing in the North West Ambulance Service, and Josh is a call handler.
Thank you. Ambulance service is patient briefing. Hello, you through to NHS 111. Patient transport service, how can I help? These are just a few of the phrases you may think of when you think of the ambulance service. This year alone, North West Ambulance Service has received more than 1,000 recorded abusive incidents, and this is only from patients. Some of the most severe cases include over 94 threats with weapons, of which 24 ended up being actual assaults. Additionally, we received quite a high volume of repeated abusive callers, one of which called 999 more than 100 times in one day. With all this in mind, the least we'd expect is inappropriate behaviour in the workplace, not just from patients, but from colleagues. And sadly, this is something that we do experience. So myself and other NWAS colleagues have come together to work with Wake the Beast to share our thoughts and experiences on this. These incidents range from homophobic and racial slurs to sexual harassment, bullying, and so much more. But together we're taking a stand against inappropriate behaviour. However, this isn't simply enough. It is estimated that more than 88% of incidents go unreported across the NHS every year, both from patients and colleagues and those involved incidents. But we are doing better, but we need to do more. For myself and colleagues that have come together to share our concerns, the importance of speaking up is important now more than it has ever been before. And as a trust, we strive to create a healthy speaking up culture for the benefits of both our staff and our patients alike, that freedom to speak up. This is why now, as we modernise the ambulance service and the NHS of the future, we need to adapt and improve our policies, training materials and infrastructure to support the staff, and not only to be responsive to incidents, but to prevent them from even happening. That's why we've joined to make these materials, and we want to see these videos used to help colleagues feel more confident to speak up, and we hope it encourages our learning and our development teams to ensure they are incorporated into existing training materials so that access is available for all. We want to truly deliver our people promise for our staff, ensuring that a voice they have counts, developing a true speaking up culture. But here's my final question for you today. Are we doing enough?
Next, we've got Amy, who is the lead for OD and learning at Mid Cheshire Hospitals. Amy's done a lot of work to promote civility in the workplace already.
Hello. Like you mentioned, we've done quite a lot of work in our trust. So coming out the back of COVID, and I'm sure there's probably quite a few people in this room who've got a very, very similar experience. Our people were really, really tired, and for a lot of people, and you know, it really resonated listening to the trauma stuff this morning from Dan. You know, those people had a real significant impact of what they'd seen, what they'd experienced, and their resilient tanks were empty, and we were seeing loads and loads of little outbreaks of instability in different pockets across the organisation. So we tried to start looking at what could we do tangibly to try and support that. So some of the stuff, the first thing we did was set up a stability group, so we had multidisciplinary groups try and look at some of the issues. And we did a number of resources, so some of the fantastic resources here on the side that the group produced, trying to raise awareness of stability and stability, what it means. We developed psychological safety and stability training. We did a stability awareness week where we got the whole organisation engaged for an entire week, execs right down to the floor, and all encouraged to undertake activities, workshops, centred around different aspects of stability and instability behaviours and how we drive that in the organisation. Did a lot of work to promote freedom to speak up, civility pledges, but despite all of that work, we were still hearing really common phrases in different forms, in different ways. A lot of people saying, well, it's just easy, isn't it? Civility is really easy, just be nice to people. And I think in that moment when we were doing that, we were kind of diminishing and minimising actually our own impact and our own responsibility in being civil, because people were seeing it as somebody else's issue. It's bad versus good, it's that bad person over there, it's that person that's not kind, and they were thinking of quite overt things. Well, I haven't shouted at anyone, I haven't had a go at anyone, I was right to say what I said, but people weren't taking accountability for their own impact and what it feels like to be on the receiving end of them. So, I mean, I think that's why we massively wanted to get involved in the work. As you see the slide, words make world, and they absolutely do. And somebody else said today here about the words that people use. Absolutely, you know, it's not about bad and good, it's not about being right or wrong. We all have an impact, and when we do our stability training, we often ask the questions to the room, like Adam did earlier, and we'll ask people who in this room is uncivil. And it was great today because people put their hand up, but normally we have tumbleweed. People sit there and everyone thinks it's somebody else. And I think probably one of the biggest impacts and the biggest, most important bit of development I had for myself was realising that I am uncivil. I am absolutely that person, and it might not be my intent, but if you fail to recognise and fail to reflect that it can be you, you're absolutely just perpetuating the behaviour that we see day-to-day in videos. So these videos were really great because they gave an opportunity to look at those small things. It's not about the really hard-hitting, overt bullying. It's those subtle things, those small things that we all do, and I think they're really powerful and help people to connect. So I think really the purpose in what we wanted to do was try and infiltrate that and get people to reflect a bit more. So some of the ways that we use videos, we're doing a big trust values relaunch in November, so we're absolutely going to use those videos as part of social media campaigns, as part of our materials, and wrap workshops around them to help people explore the thoughts and feelings in those videos today and hopefully prompt some real reflection. Absolutely, part of our trust induction, you know, we talked a lot today, we've heard lots of stuff today about, you know, that early stage of employment. Well, actually, it's about getting the behaviours right from the start, and not, it's not an afterthought. Also about reviewing opportunities to integrate it into our existing leadership programmes. So we've got leadership development, we do stuff around psychological safety, we do stuff around patient safety, but actually there's a real opportunity here to make some substantial change. And really embed it into all of our life cycle, really, looking at the employment life cycle from end to end, from when you join the organisation right through to how you sustain it, and looking at all the opportunities where we can use those to make positive change. And I just want to close on my last little slide. These are some photos of some of our staff from when we did our Civility Week, and we had hundreds and hundreds of people engaged in that. And it was really, and I used the word that Adam used earlier, but I felt privileged talking to everyone about their experiences of civility and incivility, and it was amazing to see how many people were willing to get engaged. And we often struggle people to agree to let us take their photo, we don't like it. But when it came to this subject, they were absolutely willing and they were all behind it. So I just think there's a real massive opportunity for us all here in this room to make some real positive change. Thank you.